If you're watching this, I'm assuming you're subscribed because why else would you watch a channel update, right? Well, a few days ago we hit 20,000 subscribers, so I figured I'd make another quick channel update thanking all of you and letting you know what's going on with the channel. So first of all, thank you all so much for 20,000 subscribers. I quite literally couldn't have done it without you. We're really moving up in the world and that feels really good. But let's move on to what's in the rest of the video, and I'm gonna start with some slightly bad news for some of you. First of all, Permafrost is gone. I cannot keep the series going. Like the original Permafrost, Permafrost 2022 has to go early. I am very burned out of making Let's Play stuff still. I thought I was more prepared, but even when I try and be more creative with it, it's still really repetitive. And that makes it very difficult to get the videos out, and the whole point of a series is that I can make them quickly and put out lots of them. But so far, I haven't been able to do that because I'm so burnt out on that format. And I just can't keep it going. And it doesn't help that 7 Days to Die is extremely stale for me right now. Like most of you, I'm pretty much just waiting for Alpha 21 at this point. I'm really looking forward to making a bunch of new tutorials and challenges and that kind of video, but doing them right now would just be pointless. So I am sorry for the 12 of you that were enjoying Permafrost, but it was horrible to make. And the quality of the videos was really suffering from the burnout in my opinion, so I'm just gonna stop it and move on to something that doesn't make me want to tear my hair out. And honestly, I probably won't be making long Let's Play style videos again. I'd much rather make one big interesting video than drag it out to like 30 or 40 episodes. Let's Plays are not a kind of content I like to watch, record or edit, and I think that really shows in my videos. So I'm just gonna do my own thing that I enjoy. Those videos tend to do better anyway, so that works for me. But what does that entail? Well, right now I want to do a lot more modding content, because right now I feel like a lot of people are looking for mods in this big content drought for the game. And personally, it's fun to experiment with these mods, and the editing format keeps my skills sharp, and I of course enjoy making those videos. The nature of them allows me to really experiment with different things and play around with the way I edit. And the videos are a breath of fresh air for me right now, so I'm going to be doing a lot more mod-based content until Alpha 21. Speaking of Alpha 21, I'll be continuing to cover Alpha 21 news, and I'm planning a larger video on that in the near future, as well as smaller updates leading into Alpha 21. They're fun, they're easy, and they get views. It would be silly not to do them. I do also have a couple of tutorial ideas that shouldn't be made obsolete by Alpha 21, so I'll be working on those soon as well. I'd also really like to get into making my videos more entertaining. Now you may be saying, you're 2 years into this and you're only just now trying to make the videos entertaining, and no, not quite. What I mean more is making the videos more just fun and feature more of me. Because right now, I don't think 7 Days to Die can really carry content on its own at this stage. There's just nothing new to tutorialize or cover, and if I still want something to talk about in my videos, I need to try and make myself a bigger part of the content and give it some more entertainment value so that there's an actual reason to watch it. Along with that, I think it's time for me to branch out of just 7 Days to Die. I have no plans to stop 7 Days to Die by any means, but branching into other things so that these droughts are less damaging and so that I can keep content fresh seems like a good idea to me. But the question is, what games? Well, I've given this a lot of thought, and branching into more survival games as well as RPGs seems to be the obvious choice. I'm a big fan of Bethesda and CD Projekt Red, and covering the Fallout franchise and Elder Scrolls and Starfield, as well as whatever CDPR has cooking, is something I would love to branch into, as well as other survival games like Ark Survival Evolved and Valheim, which did just receive an update recently, which I have yet to check in on. Those games have a lot of room for content. People often suggest Project Zomboid and Rust to me, but I do not like those games and I will not be covering them on my channel for the foreseeable future. No matter how many people tell me to play Project Zomboid on the channel, no, I just don't find the game enjoyable. Speaking of Ark Survival Evolved, Ark 2 is of course coming in future, and I'll definitely be covering it because it's a game that matters for me. I'm going to be playing it, so it makes sense to make content about it. And I think it's going to be good for the channel because of course there's a lot of hype around Ark 2. In the meantime though, I think if I'm going to branch into something else, it's going to be Fallout. It's a franchise I like, it has a large player base, it has a lot of games and mods and room for things to make content on. So expect some Fallout content in 2023. Along with that, there is of course Elder Scrolls and Starfield, which also I feel like I will naturally branch into eventually, as well as Starfield, Elder Scrolls and Fallout are all kind of basically the same thing by the same company, just a different flavour. And I like Elder Scrolls, I like Fallout, I see no reason I wouldn't like Starfield, so I'll probably be covering that as well. But yeah, that's what's been happening on the channel, and that's where Permafrost has gone, and that's all the stuff that's going to be coming in the future and my plans and stuff. Now it's time for the Q&A section of the video. I asked you all for some questions in the community tab a few days ago, and now we're going to go through some of the best of those. Is it true that your Scottish genes give you an immunity to the cold and an irresistible urge to insult the British? No, first of all, I am not immune to the cold. You're thinking of Nords from Skyrim, which are very similar to Scottish people. Now, Scottish people and Nords from Skyrim do have a lot of similarities. For example, alcoholism and being fictional, but Nords are actually less fictional because they actually exist in a video game, whereas Scottish people are purely mythological and we do not exist. Memes aside, I am British. I don't have an urge to insult the British because that would be insulting myself. This is all Britain. I am British. When I fill in forms, I say I'm white British. If you meant to say the English, which is these guys here, yes, I do have that urge. Everyone has that urge. The English gave us James Corden and Ricky Gervais, and we absolutely cannot allow that to stand. Next up we have, what are your favourite overhaul mods? Well, Undead Legacy and Darkness Falls are the obvious ones for a reason. They're very popular, they're very good. They're the ones I've spent the most amount of time in. Mainly though, I prefer to cover my 7 Days to Die in a lot of smaller modlets, rather than doing big overhauls that require me to learn a lot more, because I'm lazy. What games do you love playing in your free time? Mainly Fallout, as I said. How much you play 7 Days to Die? How do you stay interested in the game? Well, for the most part, I kind of just don't. I usually take a step away from it, go and play other games, whilst just keeping my content going off of, you know, things I've already recorded, written, stuff like that, and come back to the game when it feels a little bit more fresh or when there's a big content update. Would you play a PvP 7 Days to Die game? I would like to see more PvP 7 Days to Die, like Partially Royal. No, I think PvP in this game is pretty terrible, and the game is far too clunky in my opinion to have fun with, and I think a lot of people agree with me on that. I have a bad enough time putting up with the state of this game in solo PvE. I really wouldn't like to subject myself to toxic PvP players and all the clunkiness that this game has. I did my PvP days back when I was 17, grinding to platinum rank in Rainbow Six Siege, staying up for 2 to 3 days at a time, living off of Monster Energy and Pringles. But those days are past and I do not have the drive or time to dedicate my life to a PvP game. And if I was to go back, it would be a good PvP game and not 7 Days to Die. A game that is comically unbalanced and broken that you have to relearn every year. Why did you pick 7 Days to Die in the first place? I wanted to make YouTube videos, I was playing 7 Days to Die, I was annoyed at the poor quality of the tutorial content at the time and the terrible wiki. So I decided to fix that, and I did, and I will continue to. I didn't fix the wiki though because I'm lazy. What would you do if you stopped making YouTube content? I don't know, probably dedicate my life to some PvP game and chug monsters and Pringles all day? Or programming or something. What are the biggest lessons you learned in this process? When it comes to YouTube, my biggest lessons probably keep going. You will have bad days where you have really terrible views and you just feel like, ugh, this is going terribly. You'll have bad weeks like that, you might even have bad months like that. Hell, I haven't, but you may even have bad years like that. And you feel like you're not progressing, you feel like you're never gonna make it, and you think you're gonna fail, but you won't. If you keep going and keep improving, you probably will be able to carve yourself out an audience and establish some kind of decent following in whatever you want to do on YouTube. There is a lot of luck involved with growing a YouTube channel, but you can definitely skew those odds in your favor with consistency and hard work and continual improvement. Making sure you keep improving is one of the biggest things that you need to do on YouTube. Until you reach a point where you're like, this is as good as I can get, and then you just have to make loads of content. I haven't reached that yet though, so I'm still on the improvement bus. Okay, this person really wants to know a lot about me. Preferred genre of movies, games, and music. Oh, and shows. I'm a bit of a brainless consumer, so I like dumb shit like Marvel. As far as films are concerned, for shows, I'm a fan of comedy, particularly comedy from like 10 years ago. There haven't been many good comedy shows in the last like 10 years in my opinion. I'm a big fan of like The Office and Parks and Rec. I know who isn't, everybody is. And I do enjoy, you know, basically any British panel show I can get my hands on. For games, RPGs, survival games, first-person shooters, and strategy games, everything else I kind of just don't touch. For music, pretty much all of it. I do like most kinds of music. There isn't any genre I would say I don't like that I can think of off the top of my head. But I tend towards experimental and hyperpop, which are genres people over the age of like 20 probably haven't even heard of, and their heads would probably explode if they heard them. Wouldn't recommend looking into them if you are over those ages, because you probably wouldn't get it. They're very Gen Z. What YouTubers do you watch? Well, mostly the people you see me working with, like Lainey from Nerd Like Gaming, Temricky from Guns, Nerds and Steel, and Wayward Echo, along with a lot of other 7 Days to Die creators, because there's a lot of good ones, and because you need to keep up on what everybody else is doing so that you can make sure you're doing well. But I do also like myself some Gen Z internet essays, and the channels I usually have sort of on my second screen as I do my various things throughout the day are channels like Izzy's and Illuminati, along with streams from like Jerma. I know I'm extremely Gen Z, I'm so basic. Any funny stories that have happened to you? Never. Not a single funny thing has ever happened to me, and I want to keep it that way. Do you need a hug? Everyone needs a hug. Have you ever needed to hunt to survive? As most 21-year-olds from first world countries will say, no. As your moderator and close friend, what the fuck is wrong with you? Well, it's a combination of ADHD, internet exposure at a young age, and the Scottish education system. Do you have any advice for people who are maidenless? Well, obviously, become a maiden. What's the most fun build in 7 Days to Die in your opinion? Probably the Unkillable Brawler, link in the description. We have a question from Jimmy over at Crab Clown Jimmy, who you should definitely all go subscribe to. What advice would you offer to other content creators? Well, aside from what I said earlier, I'd say your first 100 videos will and should be utter trash. Just get them out so that you can get a feel on how the process goes, and so that you can consistently make small improvements until your videos are passable or even good. And I would say don't let yourself be too influenced by what everyone else in your niche is doing. It's a really good idea to try and stand apart from them rather than copy what they're doing, which is a lesson I've had to learn like several times, because I keep thinking I need to do Let's Play content and I don't, and I'm terrible with it, and I keep doing it for some reason. Oh, and if you're looking to make money on YouTube, streaming is a really good way to get yourself members and patrons, which are one of the better sources of income on YouTube, because they're slightly more consistent than ad revenue, but of course, they're harder to get members and patrons. What has been your favourite memory of the YouTube journey so far? Probably the Alpha 20 streamer weekend, where Guns invited me, Lainey, Wayward Echo, and Bad Player, along with Crab Clown Jimmy, to come be on his stream, and we just played a really buggy version of Alpha 20 very badly. Well, half the stream chat was complaining that we streamers get special treatment. Yeah, we're getting special treatment, that's why we're getting access to a version of the game that barely runs. What does the future of IzP look like? If I get my way, I'll have an intergalactic empire by the year 2059. From Femboy1164, averages pre-built viewer right there, have you ever felt as though you were forced into making 7 Days to Die content? And the answer is yes. You kind of do have to stick with one thing early on in YouTube unless you make it really successful really quickly, in which case you can kind of play by your own rules if you get viral success. But if you don't, you kind of have to stick with one thing and milk it to oblivion. And that's another tip for YouTubers, is definitely focus on one thing early on and become known for that so that you can have some kind of audience base to grow from. How did you start YouTube? Well, as I said, I started doing 7 Days to Die out of spite and kind of opportunity, but I actually started making YouTube videos by making terrible little Gen Z humor edits, where all my videos were like 15 seconds long and ranged from unfunny to mildly amusing. I made a shitpost of a video called The Ultimate Minecraft Speedrunning Guide for 2020, It might have been 2021 actually, where I blatantly cheated in a speedrun and pretended it was some kind of tutorial where I just kept spawning things in and just kept acting like, wow, that was such good luck. I used an annoying Australian text-to-speech and did all of the stereotypical Minecraft YouTuber things like spamming crouch at the camera and saying guys a lot. It was so fun to make that I actually decided to make actual tutorials, and the process I used for that shitpost of a video, because it was like 20 minutes long, so it did need some kind of pre-planning, is the process I still use today. I use a bit of a modified version of that process today, I would say. I do kind of wish I hadn't deleted it though, because it was such a good shitpost. I'll have to load up my old laptop and see if I can find all my old videos from before I deleted them all and started with 7 Days to Die. And that's all the questions I feel like answering today. Thank you all for coming along and indulging my ego. Be sure to stay tuned for more Is Pre-Built in the future, and if you want to support the channel, you can find my Patreon linked in the description, and while you're there, if you're interested, there is of course a Discord linked in the description. Thank you to my channel members and patrons for making this video possible, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.